another show.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I was originally offered another show and the timing didn't work out. And when David suggested the airport show, I jumped at it. And I think I said, like, there are more eyeballs that will be on these photographs than any show I will ever do in my life. It's a great opportunity. And I actually am going to be going through the airport in a few weeks. So I will have a chance to see the works in person. A little bit about me, for those of you I don't know. I at the am the first official photography curator at the VMFA now, an institution that has nevertheless been collecting photographs since 1936. I wear two hats at the museum. One is really to try to build up our photography program in anticipation of opening a suite of dedicated galleries in mid 2027. We'll have about 6,000 square feet for photography, which is very exciting and a little daunting. I've been building the collection and thinking about programming, and that's been a lot of fun. And then my other role at the museum is as the director of the Raysor Center for Works on Paper. And in that capacity, I oversee the stewardship of all of our Works on Paper collections. And that is also a rapidly changing role because the museum is undergoing a pretty big expansion. And as part of that, we're building a whole center devoted to Works on Paper and photographs that will bring together not just the new galleries, but also new storage center, including cold storage for photographs, dedicated space for reproduction of photographs, so digitization, whole new matting and framing studio, extensive paper and photography labs, and a public study room. So we're trying to have it kind of one-stop shopping for all things paper and photography. So those have been my main focuses this past year and a half. Before coming to VMFA, of course, I was at the High, so I have deep affection for Atlanta and for my colleagues at the High and all the people I've met at APG. One of the fun things about being a juror for a show like this is that there's a lot of freedom. I was told there was no theme for this show. And of course, I don't have to think about how it's going to look installed. In fact, I don't know where it's going to be. So I don't think about, sequence or placement or size or do we have to get something mounted? All of the kind of logistical details that normally I deal with in my job. But also, there was a lot of freedom for me to think about audience. At the museum, we're often thinking about kind of what story we're going to tell through our collection. How does it fit with the rest of the museum? How does it broaden our audience's understanding of, the practice of photography? And of course, some of those questions are still top of mind, but I thought too for this exhibition, just introducing a diversity of practice to all the people who come through the airport, one of the most international airports in the world. It's such a great opportunity to show all the different things that photography can be. So I really tried to show different kinds of practices, different genres, different approaches to materials and medium. And also think about, what people might encounter. There's, pictures, obviously of there's portraits of sort of, solitary individuals themselves in transit. There's a kind of we'll get to it, but a picture of a woman sort of on a boat or a ferry. But other things that are much more imaginative and playful. And the audience for this kind of exhibition is so much broader. It's what we hope for at the museum, kind of a cross section of everybody, but we don't often get. So that's really, it was sort of a joy to be able to select things. I think there were more than, I don't know, about 150 submissions, perhaps. I can't quite remember. It was a lot. Not quite as many as I'm going to give a plug here, the Aaron Siskind VMFA Prize for Photography, which we launched this past year at VMFA, which had over 800 submissions. But I do encourage all of you to apply. So it was really competitive, though, for this show. I think the last thing I'll say is that I really appreciated not just the ease with which this process was organized. Thank you, David and Brian. But also that even though I was only allowed to select one image from each artist, that artists were able to submit a group of images. I find that that's always really helpful for me to be able to, one work you can't always really understand how somebody approaches their craft, what they're thinking through, but a group of images really allows me to kind of get a sense of their vision as an artist. And I think it's when I was able to sort of detect groups that I felt like there was a strength throughout, a consistency, an idea that somebody was working out. That really is what drew me, I think, to those submissions. Um, and then I think the last thing I'll say, there's always a caveat. Looking and judging, jurying by a screen is different than looking at works in person. And so sometimes things just don't come across on my computer screen that I would see in person and be blown away by. So there's always things that we kind of leave on the table. We run across them later in person. We think, oh my God, I had no idea it looked like that. So that's just the caveat, but we do the best we can in this digital world. It certainly allows us, to have more people participating, even if it is an imperfect process. So I'm probably not going to keep talking because tonight is really an opportunity for the artists to talk about their work. I might ask some questions or make some comments as we go on. But I'm really excited to hear from the artists themselves, and to kind of take that screen-based experience I had of just looking at somebody's portfolio and bring it to life. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, when I get back from the jurors, the images that are going to be in the show, I'll look through them and I'll be like, oh, this is a really lovely image. This is a lovely image. And then the actual piece will arrive at the gallery and it's like, oh, wow, this is an amazing photograph. There's very, very different experience. Okay, let me unpin you. And okay, let me reshare. Okay. So this is Airport 2025. These are the artists who were featured in the exhibition. Congratulations to all of you. And for our first image, we have Andrea London, who has her picture Autumn in Central Park. So, Andrea, would you like to speak about your image?
I would. I'd first like to say that this is the first artist talk that I've been to where my work has been in the exhibition. So it's more than thrilling. And for it to be in the Atlanta Photography Group with Dr. Kennel is even more thrilling. And I just couldn't be happier to be in the company of the kinds of artists that I've seen from the Atlanta Photography Group before. So this photograph I took, obviously in Central Park. I have an apartment that's about a 7-minute walk on the east side of the park. Otherwise, I live in Florida. So I often go out with the camera to find something interesting because Central Park offers all kinds of opportunity. There's architecture, there's people, street photography, all different kinds of opportunities just taking a stroll through the park. So I was having wonderful to walk through the park and I went from east to west and I got over to the west side and the sun started coming down and I thought, I didn't get one shot today. And I looked over my shoulder as I was about 50 feet from the exit of the park and I saw the light shining through this area, which is known as the pond. And I must have taken about 50 shots of it before I lost my light. But I was just struck by the light, the contrast, the subtleties of the colors, and the brightness of the couple of spots on there, and the reflection in the pond. And I just thought it was very, very pretty.
It's funny that you called it the pond because one of the things that I think I really liked about this piece was it made me think about the kind of pictorialist practice in the early 20th century. And, there's a famous Siskind, the pond, moonlight. And so, and in this day and age, of course, technology is so advanced. There's so many ways of making kind of a technically perfect landscape. We see a lot of them. But what I really liked about this one is it didn't feel overworked in any way. And yet, it's dark, but you have this wonderful range, you have this detail and really wonderful kind of range, subtle range of color. And I love that subtle color range in this work. I see a lot of very saturated color work. And so that kind of beautiful luminosity, but also that nod back to the history of photography was really beautiful. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy. This image is called Chrysalis and is by Anne Walker.
Is Anne here?
Anne is here, but
Oh,
she said that she did not want to speak. Did you change
okay.
your mind?
So I'll just say that I love this picture, and I kept thinking about 19th century painting, like the Jericho paintings, or something, or like a Turner picture. So again, it had that kind of historical references to it, um, that I really love. That this sort of sailing into this, bright, almost fiery sky in the horizon. So yeah.
This photo is by Chris Dant called Worthy Sons. And you
Yeah, I
got
don't
your
know.
back.
Yeah, I
Go
don't know if
ahead.
Chris is here, but I loved all of his portraits, and um, I'm particularly drawn to figures that are kind of twinned, even though these are, very different individuals. Kind of our eyes are trained to see these kind of duos, and they have such personality, each of them. So I thought it was great, kind of contemporary youth picture.
See. And next up is Christina Price Washington with her Pinhole Rocks photograph. And I know Christina is here tonight. So tell us about this photograph, because we've seen this at APG's gallery before, but it was a three-dimensional work in our gallery previously.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, for having me, and thank you for coming and having this talk tonight. I've been working with rocks for the last 4 years, and I'm also constantly oscillating between drawing and photography. And then this past summer, I went back to making photographs with a pinhole camera, and then I ended up in the residency printing them out and again drawing on top of them. So there's always this, I've been doing this probably since the 80s, that I constantly work with photography or drawing. My previous drawings of rocks would be with graphite, but they look photorealistic. People thought they would be photographs. So it's always like, the image and the drawing. And anyway, so the rocks are really it came about 4 years ago when the Ukrainian war broke out, and I was trying to order photography supplies for my university, and the prices were going very skyrocketed high. And I realized how the raw materials of what makes photography is so connected to supply chain, and every time that there's a war throughout history of photography, photography changes or photography is somewhat impacted. So I got very interested in this kind of ecological combination. On the other hand, I'm just like also the rocks and how they are just. So the rocks is kind of like a stand-in for a mineral for a second, but now I'm becoming kind of lost in those rocks and find them in the landscape. And the pinhole is also kind of this chance of a chance operation. And I, again, love graphite and working with contrast and figure ground relationship.
Yeah, I really love the different registers here. And I guess it's the pinhole, it's the graphite. But also the way that to me, and it makes sense when you're talking about sort of the some of the background in your mind, what was going on behind making these. Because this is one of those pictures for me where the landscape oscillates between sort of welcoming and foreboding. You're sort of like, is it leaves that are moving and creating a blur, or is that kind of smoke or dissipation? So I love that sort of ambiguity. And I did a show a while ago on an artist who worked a lot with pinhole, and it just really opened me up to what a wonderful kind of strange and unpredictable way of making pictures it is, and how many different expressions of pinhole there can be. This was really wonderful. So I'm glad to learn more about it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Christina. And next up, we have Christopher Ryan with Ghost Hotel, Chiang Mai, Thailand. So, Chris, tell us about your photo.
Hi, thank you so much. So probably get redundant to hear, but I'm really thrilled about being in this show and having so many people see this because it's one of my favorites. This comes from us. Oh, and I also want to acknowledge my appreciation for Beth Lilly for convincing me I should submit a full body of work, even though this was an open theme, because I battled that in my head both ways. But anyway, so I conceived this project called Youth and Urban Decay in 2016 when I was living in Thailand. Since then, I've shot this series on 4 continents and over a dozen countries in the world. But when I dreamed it up, the idea was to shoot children and teens in abandoned places. And I was really concerned because it just sounds so weird. And I was like, how am I going to get the first model? Because I'll be talking to parents and say, can I borrow your kid to take them into this abandoned building and take pictures? But I kind of lucked out with this kid, Benz, because he was my driver's friend's son. He was 11 years old. And ever since I've had this image, I've never had anybody refuse to have to participate because this just turned out so well. But it's called the Ghost Hotel of Chiang Mai. Thai people, Buddhist people, especially, often will abandon something like a resort or a hotel or an office building if something bad happens during construction. This particular place, 2 construction workers fell off with a scaffolding and died during the construction process. And surprisingly, they actually went ahead and opened this hotel. And then a guest committed suicide in the hotel shortly after, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like this is done." So it's been abandoned since then, and gosh, that's really about the whole story to it.
That's a darker backstory than I had known. I think I just kept looking at the this kind of representation of the television screen, but with a single eye on it, and the kind of red in the background. And um, I just kept coming back to it over and over and sort of I found it really compelling. It made me think it's both kind of graffiti, but also like the third eye. And then if you know that Buñuel film that opens up with a cow eye being sliced open. Anyway, so just yeah, really compelling picture, and even more interesting now that I know the backstory.
Thank you. And I'll say one last thing. I believe that I restrained from submitting another one that I had because it was a kid in an abandoned 747 airplane because I didn't think people would want to see that when they're getting ready to get on a plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And next up is Coco Harris with her Sands of SSI #2. So, Coco, tell us about this.
Hi, good evening, and thank you. This is this photograph is set on St. Simon's Island, and that's in coastal Georgia. And it's emblematic of a theme that threads through a lot of my visual art and particularly art that I make. And it's this intersection of history and legend and my own personal story. I'm a native of Atlanta, and if anyone has been down on the shores of St. Simon's Island, you would notice how the sands make like these marcations all along the beach and seashore. And once I was there on vacation with my daughters who are Igbo, and I would see these patterns and I would take these images. And this image in particular, I would ask people, like, what do you see? Because I see like this looks like a woman figure is like 10 feet tall, walking gallantly along the seashore. And if you know other things about the Low Country, it's filled with legend and lore. And this kind of like speaks to the legend of Igbo Landing, where it's one of like the early slave routes of Georgia, where newly arrived enslaved persons decided to march back into the sea to return back to Africa rather than be enslaved in the colony. So, so it just really spoke to me, and that's just like what I was trying to capture. So being a part of this show is also extremely special to me because the Atlanta airport is like home to me. I'm a part of like the Delta family, my family. So all my life I'm in and out of this airport. So to have this, opportunity, really appreciate it. But yes.
Well, I can't wait to see this piece in person. I remember looking at a lot of your work, and I think what I really appreciated about it is that, oftentimes we look at a work like this and might just think it's a kind of an abstract landscape, and it's a category separate from history and human experience and gender. And the way that you write about and just spoke about your work and kind of weave it together and ground this landscape and lived experience and history and myth and your own family's history made it so powerful to me. And I think really changed, the way that I was thinking about, that I might have encountered it just walking past and not
Mhm.
understanding the complexity of it, So it's
Yeah,
both a beautiful image, but also really love the connections that you make to place and history. So congratulations.
thank you.
Thanks, Coco. Next up is Dale Niles with her work At Dawn. So, Dale, tell us about this photograph.
Thank you. And thank you, Sarah, and Ryan, Brian, and David, all for getting this together. And I'm honored to be at the airport. This image was taken on an artist retreat on Cumberland Island, and we had seen the piebald deer like the day before, so we got up really early the next morning to hunt it down again. But I was actually looking at the light that was coming through that window, and I asked my friend to please stand in the background. And the deer, actually, I did have to do a composite to get him there because he was really off to the left. But I just loved the composition and the mystery of kind of what was happening. And it was early, and the light was just gorgeous. And I was glad I got to see it. It was magical.
Yeah, that was kind of like that's when you think photography is magic, and maybe a little Photoshop helps as well. But
Yeah.
it has that kind of traditional gelatin silver, like kind of black and white quality to it, really beautiful light and luminosity. But then it's infused with mystery, and I really thought people would love to kind of they might look at the picture and then come back to it and try to understand sort of what's happening and the relationship between the deer and the figure. Anyway, it was quite
Yeah.
lovely. So can't wait to see it in person.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. This piece is by Emmanuel Matthew, excuse me, called Globetrotter. Unfortunately, Emmanuel is not with us tonight.
That's too bad. I would really wanted to hear from him because he had a great series. This was kind of part of it, as this character, but this image just sort of grabbed me. And I also thought it would be so great for the airport too, because everybody in there is a globetrotter, right? But I really, I hope to learn more about his work. But there's kind of this wonderful performative character in a couple of the pictures that I really liked. So
Yeah, there were some great photos in his series. And next up is Frank First with his piece Tugaloo, I believe. So Frank, tell us about this image.
Yes. So any of you who've driven I-85 between South Carolina and Georgia, you've crossed over the Tugaloo River or close to the point where this photograph's taken. Took me a couple years to get the photograph I wanted. I'd pulled off the exit there many times and driven along the river looking for interesting compositions. And I'd been there many days with a clear sky and had gotten a very abstract, a number of very abstract photographs, but they were missing. I was looking for another layer, another dimension, if you will, and finally found a day with a cloudy sky and what had once been just pure black and white at both ends of the spectrum got filled in with a lot of these middle tones and really got what I was looking for and what I had envisioned the first time I looked at this spot.
well, congratulations. I mean, it's a wonderful picture, and I love the oscillation between kind of little parts of three-dimensionality, but also how much I read it as graphic mark making, right? It's kind of this wonderful dialogue with kind of, we imagine, like Twombly or somebody making marks, but then in the natural world. And it's kind of easy to make abstract pictures that are very cold, or just kind of flattened. And I really, this was really, it kind of had a dynamism to it, that tension maybe between, kind of nature and representation. So I really liked it. It made me think about a lot of my favorite photographs by people like Callahan and others. So congratulations. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Jane Dominic with Apartments Over the Arno River. So Jane, you're up.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This was from 2006, so quite a while ago. And it was at a time when I was traveling a lot, and when I thought that one needed to travel great distances to make good pictures. I don't think that's true anymore for me, but I think a lot of us go through that phase. And in any event, we were taking a walk, and I took this picture. And what I realized, I keep going back to it over the years, and what I realize now is that it didn't matter where this scene presented itself. It could be anywhere. It could be here in Atlanta. It could be pretty much anywhere. What I was drawn to was not the location, but what I was really drawn to are the colors, the symmetry, the repetition, the shapes, and the contrast. And what I mean by the contrast is if you look at a color wheel, you'll see that blue and orange are complementary. They're on each side of the color wheel. And those kinds of things appeal to me wherever they turn up. And so this scene resonated for reasons I didn't really understand at the time. I thought, oh, it's Florence. I need to be making great pictures in Florence. But yeah, so that's sort of my thought process and how it's evolved about this photograph. And this open theme, open calls always trouble me because I don't know where to go with them. And I figured it's an airport, they're traveling. Maybe they'll like to see some image of where they might be going or coming from. So that's how we landed on this particular one.
I think what drew me to this picture, Jean, is not really actually a sense of place, which is what I think you're getting at too. I loved how these buildings each had such a sense of personality. Like they really felt like these kind of individuals. And part of it, I think, is the way that they're structured, the way that you've structured the composition, with bigger and smaller, and they're sort of deeper and shallower, but also this gradation of colors in the brown and ochre. Yeah, it was just kind of a very lively, picture that goes beyond the, traditional architectural scene that often can feel a little dead. It just has so much life in it, and the different ways and people styled their windows, the curtains open or closed, the flowers there or not. So anyway, I thought it was a very lively an individual picture of place.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jane. This photo is by Gwen Julia, called Staten Island Ferry Ride. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us tonight. It's such a lovely photo.
Yeah, this to me felt very contemplative, very cinematic. And the light on the hair, but also looking at the landscape kind of through two screens, right? We're looking at it through the photograph, but then also kind of through these windows. So really beautiful work.
Yeah, the airport selected two images to use in their postcards and pamphlets to advertise the show. This was one of them, and the globetrotting image was the other.
Yeah. Well, and both, of course, relate to travel, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then Hector Tomez with the See They Sow. And unfortunately, he also was not able to join us this evening.
Yeah. This was just a, really beautiful picture. And I was really curious about how he made it. So
Yeah. And I'm not sure why Tyler is in this position here. Let's see, do we have, Tyler's not here this evening.
okay.
So I'll just go ahead and show their photo. I hope I haven't. So this was their photo, Stars, Stripes. I was hoping that we get to talk with Tyler and find out about the Vogue logo that's part of the image.
Yeah, I remember I had some questions about that. But also just a really striking image. Just the kind of the smile and right now the flag, of course, is such a touchstone, political touchstone. And in the way here it's sort of this young man is draped in it, I found to be very powerful and moving.
So Ken Bloom's Map of Elements 2025, he also was unable to join us this evening.
I'm not going to make any comment because I remember there was a backstory to this, but I can't remember what it is now.
Okay. And that brings us to, I'm going to mess up your name, Kim Lorena?
That's
Lorena?
It's Yerena. No, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I made this in 2022, about a year after I had moved to Miami. And I really didn't know how to photograph in Miami. I'm really not comfortable photographing where I live and making work where I live. And Miami is just its own beast. But I was walking on Miami Beach and I saw this woman washing off after having gone to the beach in one of those little shower stations. And I just asked her, because her hair looked incredible, I just asked her if I could photograph her hair. And I wasn't doing portraits at the time. I didn't want anybody's face in the work for various reasons, because it wasn't about portraiture. But she let me take, she was very nice and let me take like 5 or 6 pictures. And I thought that this was the best. Um, and then it's one of those where I got home and realized that like the hair is great and I love the shape of it, obviously the color of it. But then I started to like the other details of the photo more, like how the nails kind of matched the hair, which I didn't notice when I met her, but I'm sure she noticed when she put them on. And the rubber band and like the fact that she's clutching a phone and the little dots of water after she had gotten out of that shower off the beach. And I think it just kind of made this, it looks like this moment that's suspended in time a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. I really like portraiture. I'm really drawn in general to like contemporary portraiture, environmental portraiture, and my selections for this show actually were very light on portraiture. But I love the negotiation here between intimacy, how close you are, but also privacy. And I think it makes for something, really compelling. And it sometimes um, portraiture can be challenging, like if it's not collaborative. It feels like a really, she's invited you in to sort of, um, honor her. But yeah, it's everything comes together really beautifully in this light. So it's a very evocative, not portrait.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is Lynette Newell's photograph, Western Lowland Gorilla. So Lynette, you are up.
Thank you, Sarah. It's just really nice to be in this grouping. And like you say, it's one of the places that so many people can see your photography. I think I'm really lucky. And thank you, David, for putting everything together. This lowland gorilla is critically endangered, and you cannot go to see them really. So I photographed it in the Albuquerque Zoo. However, the Atlanta Zoo has one of the largest populations of them. So if you're into gorillas and all the animals, they do have one of the biggest populations in North America and play a very important part in the conservation of them. This gorilla is from a larger project. I have a primate book coming out in May by G Editions, and it's primates that can ship with all creatures. So I've been working on primates for some time, and of course animals all my life. But this particular gorilla is, especially photographing in zoos, it's quite hard because I hadn't done it that much, really. And so I try to get this connection by going early or late, or usually early. And no one was at the zoo at this particular time for this guy. And he was just, we had this connection. And I was afraid that if I brought up my camera, it would go away. But I did get it, and it was really, it's really thrilling because a lot of times primates, gorillas in particular, they avoid you. They don't necessarily want to look at your eyes. So I feel really lucky to have gotten the photograph, and I feel strong about the animal kingdom, and so the connection is nice.
I just thought it was kind of an amazing picture. It was like a, Yusuf Karsh portrait, right? The trick, like really beautiful, almost studio portrait, but you're telling me you took it at a zoo in the morning. And so, I think it's a fantastic transformation and really underscores our connection and our closeness, to we are primate, like we are all on the same level. And so it's really, really beautiful. So I can't wait to see the book.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Lynn Seville with her photograph Abstract Reflections. So Lynn, tell us about this photo.
Hi, David. Good to see you. Thank
Good
you.
to see you too.
Sarah, I'm very honored to be part of this show. It's nice to meet you. I have been walking around photographing New York, mostly at twilight and dawn for a long time. And I was finding that as these newer buildings that were full of glass, that I was actually like avoiding them. And I suddenly sort of had to have a conversation with myself, like, I've admitted I love this city. I sort of committed my life living here and I just adore it. And why am I ignoring absolute neighborhoods just because there's so much glass? So I said, okay, let me just give it a try. So I started walking around looking at the newer buildings and was immediately rewarded because the first thing made me just start to laugh. I mean, I thought that what I was going to see, I know it's really crazy to think you could walk around the city and miss these things intentionally, but I thought, things that I thought were just going to be cold and faceless were the opposite. They were just humorous, kind of things look like Gaudi, just crazy juxtapositions and stuff. And so I just said, okay. And this was about a year ago, and I'm now working on a project about mostly glass buildings or things involving, windows and featuring different aspects of the city. And the other thing that led to this picture was that I had been working on a series on elevated subways, which I did mostly during COVID, and I'm still kind of interested, where I was looking at, I take the elevated subway because it was like my little road trip. And I explored, High Line and anywhere sort of higher up, and was looking at water towers and things. And then I had some shows and I thought, okay, let me move on. And the first thing I saw was like water towers in the reflections. And it was like the city was winking at me. It was really, really fun. So what happened is in the middle, just a few months ago, I was walking in the Midtown area near kind of Museum of Modern Art. And I look up much more than I used to. I was more thinking about the street or the sidewalk or the um, doorways or windows or shops or stuff. But after the elevator, I was looking up, and I looked up and this is a single image. It was just like I stepped like 6 inches and it changed. And it was just this intersection of a few buildings that had huge glass facades and some metal, and it just looked like a collage, and I was very amused by it. And it was also funny because I didn't write down where it was, and it was on a block I don't typically go on because I usually go to more peripheral places, like Bushwick or I just go places beyond the center. And here it was smack in the middle of town. And I wanted to go back with another camera and I could hardly find it because it's like literally you move your foot like 2 inches and the scene changed. So I had to think, oh, where was that sign that says love your life? Then that sort of brought me to where it was. Anyway, thank you so much for including it because it's such a different picture than most. It sort of fits into my themes, but it's just, I don't have anything that looks like it. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I love hearing about it. I mean, I do think you sort of mentioned collage, montage, and I think it's amazing to see these pictures that we think must be manipulated, but it really is just being able to make the right photograph, but also the kind of hallucinatory aspects of the modern city and evoke some of the alienation and just the dizzying pace of change in New York City with all these new buildings. So yeah, great picture.
And whenever my eye lands on the book Changing New York by Bernice Abbott, it's like I think, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
This piece is by Michael Marshall called An Interfer Log Loader. So, Michael, you are up. Is Michael here? Oops.
Maybe he had to go.
So
Such a
I'll
great
tell you,
picture. All of the work
yeah,
he submitted was so great. So I'm not gonna, it's getting late, so I'm not gonna get into it since he's
yeah.
not here, but it's all great work, and this was just an amazing picture. So
This photograph is by Rashid Haig, Untitled from Crude Networks. Um, he was unable to join us this evening.
yeah,
I love the colors in the photograph.
yeah, yeah. And the numbers.
Uh, Rebecca Spohr, her Untitled one, and I did not hear back from Rebecca. Let me just, I do not see her in the participant list. And this piece is by Robin Bailey, the House Cooling Tower in Michigan City, Indiana. So, Robin, tell us about your photo.
Hi, good evening. Thanks so much for putting one of my images into the show. That makes me extremely happy. Um, Most of my work, yeah, most of it is all about the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest, and I guess I really haven't ever left. And I've been photographing in the Midwest for years and years and years because I'm old. But this particular image, a couple friends of mine who are also extremely good photographers have photographed this same house and cooling tower, and we kind of just chuckle all the time because it's constantly changing. If you notice the windows, they're all boarded up towards the east where the sun's coming up. And I was by, I don't know, a couple months ago, I guess, and the windows have all been replaced and all now. So they're trying to make a comeback at this house, but it's kind of interesting. And the cooling tower actually is going to be replaced by alternative energy sources. I think next year in 28, in that 2 year span. So that was, I just learned that a couple weeks ago. So that was kind of interesting. Who know? I would assume they're gonna tear the cooling tower down at some point. So at least a few of us caught it. It's kind of I don't know. Cooling towers are just kind of a fun thing on the landscape. They're so dominant and so iconic that they're kind of hard to ignore. But for most of my photography, I tend not to just shoot the structure. It's not like a portrait of a house. It's more of, in my mind, the ambiance of the situation or the scene. And I think the feelings that I get looking at the image is more important than really what's in the image. Um, and most of my work is about older structures. I think after the 50s, I kind of lost interest in architecture for the most part. I kind of tend to like the older buildings, and I think they just have so much more soul. But that might be because I'm old. So who knows? But I like to photograph structures that are survivors. I don't really get into abandoned and dilapidated. I like to find those places where people are actually trying to make a go of it, despite maybe their inability to pay for it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, I guess.
Well, I love this picture, and I think, of course, the cooling tower is very dramatic. But actually, what I really liked about this picture was how everything kind of related. You've got the power pole and those lines across it, the trees on the left, the that long sense of, kind of depth going to the house behind that house in front. It made me think about some of the work that kind of, you know, um, like Lee Friedlander was doing, or some of the maybe new topographics
Yeah.
photographer. So it's the entire structure of this this photograph that I really, really liked. Not and of course also, the puffy cloud coming out. But just, as a kind of structure, really beautifully structured, kind of meticulously, made, and both visually and conceptually grounded. So it's a great picture.
That's kind of a good observation about the new topographics. Frank Golke is one of my heroes, so he certainly influenced my photography as well as the FSA
Yeah.
group on mass. So yeah, that's where I come from.
Yeah. Well, great.
Thanks,
Thank
Robin.
you. Yeah.
This next work is by Saba Sitton called Somewhere Not the Same. And Saba had opted not to speak about the work tonight.
Yeah. I really like there was a series of works that she submitted that were kind of not really diptychs, but two-part works, and that spoke about kind of memory and displacement in a really beautiful way. So it's a good body of work.
This piece is by Samantha Yancey called They and Gay at the Burn Pile. And so, Samantha, I saw that you made it tonight. So, would you like to chat about your piece?
Hey, David. Yes, I'm here. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make it. I'm sort of neck deep in motherhood this week, but thank y'all for having me. I'm honored to be here. This is Faye and Gay. They're elderly twin sisters from my hometown, and they've spent their entire lives devoted to each other. So they were kind enough to allow me to come into their home and just spend some time with them and document their daily life together pretty much. This is them doing some yard work. They're very independent, so as you can see. But yeah, that's about it.
I have to say that this was the hardest group to choose from. You submitted, I don't know, 6 or 7 works, and there were so many great pictures of Faye and Gay. And originally I was really drawn to a couple of the interiors, and a lot of them are in color. But I just kept coming back to this one as well. There's something kind of mysterious about, it's almost like they're creating a kind of effigy in the fire. And both, they're older ladies, they're protecting themselves, but also they're kind of doing something dangerous. And anyway, it was a wonderful series. I can't wait to see more of them.
Thank you so much.
Samantha, wasn't your series selected for either the Critical Mass 200 or the 50 this year?
Yes, I got the 50 this year, and I'm thrilled.
Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Great series.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was a juror for the series, and I remember looking at this entire series, just how fabulous it was.
Thank you, David.
Scott Loudon's piece, Greg Nolan, number 52, and unfortunately, Scott sent me a note that he will be coming through the Atlanta airport about the time that we're having this meeting, so he was unable to join us tonight.
It's too bad, but we'll be able to see the work.
He does gorgeous work.
Yeah, can tell it's beautiful.
This is Sharon Kavanaugh's work, Arc of Flight. And so, Sharon, tell us about your photograph.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very I'm full of gratitude for being included in the show. I want to say thank you to Dr. Sarah and to David and Brian for organizing everything and spending time on it. This photo happened in October of last year. It was at the end of an air show on the tail end of a very busy day where I got to fly in a P-51 plane to arrive at the air show. That was really thrilling. But this photo is part of an almost 6-year project. I've been shooting over at the castle Airport outside of Merced in California. And I've been given kind of carte blanche to run around between the airport. Certain people who own hangars, and one of them is the owner of this plane, which was supposedly the plane that Tom Cruise hung out of during Mission Impossible. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but that's what I was told on the day.
Yeah.
The owner of the plane leaves it gray, so the movie people, productions can paint it any kind of color in CG in the movies. Apparently, it's been rented out many times. So I've been tuning the restoration gentlemen who are retired Air Force people from past services in some way, and they put airplanes back together, rivet by rivet and bolt by bolt, and then put it out to the castle base next door, the museum, I'm sorry, the Castle Museum. So it's wonderful to be trusted by them for the last 6 years and to be allowed into every aspect of their life and to hang out in the hangar when it's freezing cold and also when it's extremely hot during the summers over there outside of Merced. But it's been a rewarding project and there's more to come. And I'm looking for grants this year to going forward as well. So hopefully being included in the exhibition will help things. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that happens. I really enjoyed a lot of your submissions, and it made me think about this picture really as a portrait, and I'm glad to know some of the backstory about it as well. So it's really beautiful.
Thank you. We lit it
Thanks.
with my husband helped me light it late at night, and he ran around with a $50 Home Depot flash.
Yeah, it looks like quite an endeavor. I would have thought you would have had much bigger lights for that. So
yeah, we keep it simple if we can.
Yeah.
So
He did a good job.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't get paid though, but yeah, he did a good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is Susan Peltison's piece, Garden Party. And unfortunately, Susan wanted to be with us tonight, but had a conflict. So,
Yeah.
And last but certainly not least is Xuan Shui, and joining us all the way from Japan. So tell us about this gorgeous image.
Hello, everyone. My name is Xuan. I'm from Singapore and have been living in Japan for the past 15 years. Sorry, I'm out today photographing. It's like Fahrenheit, so I had to go out because it's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah, for selecting this image, Ephemera Encounters, and many thanks to David, Brian, and Judith for giving us this opportunity to show our work to so many people. Sorry for all the trouble caused by my submission. I'm so thankful that you tracked me down. I started photographing about 15 years ago as a form of self-therapy over the loss of my mother to cancer. Over time, I healed, and I now photograph just to celebrate nature's beauty and also to preserve the fleeting moments, the encounters that I've been so lucky to witness. This image was made, I think, 2 autumns ago in central Hokkaido. It rained the day before, and temperatures were expected to plunge overnight with clear skies the next day. So I decided to go to this place where I thought there'll be frost on that there would be frost on trees, and where a mist might appear. I think, as you know, nature photography, and especially nature and landscape photography, is in part hard work, in part knowledge, and in most part luck, especially in my case. So I always feel very lucky, and also I feel great joy and gratitude whenever I'm these amazing scenes unfold before my eyes. Thank you.
Well, congratulations. It's so nice to have somebody from all the way around the other side of the world joining us tonight and participating. I mean, you say it's luck, but I looked at your whole portfolio that you submitted, and they're all really strong. Very delicate and yet very powerful landscapes and incredibly subtle range of tone. So I cannot wait to see this work in person.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. There was a question in chat about for the people who aren't either going to be coming through the airport or don't live in Atlanta. Luckily, this exhibition is up for a little while, and so I plan on making it down there one day and taking some installation shots. And so once I have those, I will send that out to all of the artists. So that brings us to the end of the evening with the Q&A. So let me stop sharing and bring it back to this. And we can take a few minutes in case anybody has any questions for Dr. Kennel or each other or any of the artists. Now is your chance to ask those.
Could you repeat the name of that exhibition that you were hoping that some of us would submit to, please?
Oh, right. It's a prize that we have initiated at the VMFA. So a couple years ago, the VMFA absorbed the holdings of the Aaron Siskind Foundation. The Aaron Siskind Foundation used to give out fellowships to photographers. So we are kind of taking on that mantle. And we will be giving away, this year we gave away two $25,000 prizes. So it's called the VMFA Aaron Siskind Prize for Photography. And we will probably be putting information on our website soon about the next round.
Awesome,
So,
thank you.
Yeah. So, great. And that's a jury, so I sort of supervise it, but we'll have a different jury every year. And this year we had an artist, an editor from Aperture, and a curator, a photo curator from a museum. So great jury.
Anybody else? Any last minute burning desires before we close out for the evening? So, Sarah, I just want to thank you again for working with us on this, going through the images tonight, just really brings back home just what a strong show this is and what a great collection of photographs. So thank you for your work on curating this exhibition.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was really an honor to participate, and so nice to see such a range of practice and to be able to put in things that I couldn't necessarily put up at the museum, but I can put them up at the airport and get to visit them there. So it was really a lot of fun. And I'm also just really impressed with how much APG is doing. And I'm so glad that everybody's participating in all these shows. So it's fantastic to see photography continue to flourish in Atlanta and beyond.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. If you want to watch it again, this will be available on YouTube sometime tomorrow. And if you have any friends you think would enjoy it, please send them to our YouTube page.
Great.
And everyone enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.